Hello, and welcome to Abby Tyler's Healthy Living. My name is Abby Tyler. I'm your host, a family nurse practitioner, a health and wellness blogger, and a community volunteer. In here, we discuss evidence based health information regarding mind, body, and soul with a holistic emphasis. Thanks for joining me on this journey of health and wellness. Please enjoy the show. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to Abby Tyler's Healthy Living. My name is Abby, your Healthy Living NP. How are you guys doing out there? Welcome to our weekly show. Want to put my glasses on. Okay, so please see if you're watching now, please share the show. Please share the show. Also, like I said, I'm trying to raise funds to put back into the show so I can bring you more evidence-based information. So let me just come over here. Okay, we're continuing our series on men's health. As you know, or if you don't know, June is Men's Health Month, and I've been doing a weekly series on men's health on different topics. If you missed the past 2 weeks, the first one was how to get the men in your life, to encourage the men in your life to go get their regular checkup and also follow up with other checkups that they have to do. And last week I did 7 important topics to be aware of. So, health topics for men to be aware of. This is not only for men, it's for men, women, and also the whole family. Because again, when I did women's health, whatever affects the wife in the house or the woman, it all affects the family, the husband, the children, and all that too. But even if you're not married, all of that, okay? So please, share the show. And so today we're going to be doing, as you see there, healthy tips to cope with a midlife crisis. I'm going to make it a little bit more relaxed today. I know I was talking like some serious stuff on the past 2 weeks and all that. I don't want to make it too serious today. Okay, so healthy tips to cope with a midlife crisis. So let me just go in here and get my notes together. Okay, so as always, I am a provider, but I'm not your provider. So please do not make any changes to your regimen without checking with your own provider. Okay, so let's get started again. Share the show. Alrighty. Okay, so what is the definition of a midlife crisis? I don't like the fact they call it crisis because it just like kind of change, it's like more of a change or a transitional time in your life. Okay, so it's not technically a medical diagnosis and it's not a psychiatric diagnosis, but it's something that may turn into a medical diagnosis or psychiatric diagnosis if it's not managed well. Okay, so some of the definitions, there are definitions: an emotional crisis of identity and self-confidence that can occur in early middle age. They say about 40, sometimes 35 to 60 years old. Not recognizable again, like by medical or diagnosis. However, it can lead to a medical and psychiatric diagnosis if not managed well, like I just said. Okay, so let me get in here. Many men, okay, when it comes to men, of course, to measure their worth in terms of professional success. So a midlife crisis in men may be centered around their achievements or around regrets about not taking actions to better their careers when they were younger. Because, it's like they get to a certain point where they're like maybe 35 or 40 and all that. And they say, you know what? And they see times going by, they see the younger ones are coming up, and in case they're not too happy with their lives, and they say, I should have taken that chance. I should have gone with that job that I was supposed to do. I should have moved somewhere else where my life would have been better. Maybe I should have married a different person. My life would have been better today. Or maybe that long lost love that left me, I should have gone to go find her. And just so many things. Because of course, when you get into that age, you start looking, you're not a youth anymore. Depending on the culture, you could be a youth until you're like 55,000. But you're not youth anymore and you're not old yet. So it's right at that time in your life where you start, calibrating. You're like, okay, this is where I am right now. What is it that I want to do in my life? And especially if they haven't gotten to the point, because there's some people like, oh, I could have been CEO by now. I could have been owning my own business. I could have been doing all this. And look at me now. I'm going to be getting old soon. Because as a woman too, we go through different things. Ours is like more physiological, meaning you go through the changes, the hormonal changes. Men also go through hormonal changes, but women is like a little more profound. So it's like you say in there, you're thinking, oh, especially when I go to these graduation parties or the cookouts and all that for the younger kids. And I sit there and be like, wow, it wasn't too long ago. I was just getting out of high school. It wasn't too long ago. I was just a young mother. It wasn't too long ago. Here I am now. When I look around and see the people who are much older than me, I'm like, it won't be too long until I get to that point. look at where am I in my life right now? Is this where I want to be? I mean, would I want to do something different? I even said, I was like, oh my God, do I really want to get old on Facebook? Maybe at what point in my life do I want to get off Facebook? Because, people will be like, oh, okay, we don't want too many old people on Facebook. And this, and these are the Facebook, most of the young kids are not even on Facebook anyways. So it's good for us. Okay. So again, little personal stuff and all that too. But also men go through that. So when they go through all of it, when it gets to the point and they start questioning these things, and if it's not managed well, because you can always, it's always time to reinvent yourself. But if it's not managed well, then we can lead into something like I said, things like depression and all. Okay. So common triggers that include that can lead into that, job loss, especially if they lose their job this late in the game and they have to start all over, health conditions that kind of slow them down or change their lifestyle, parents' death, because between 35 to 60, your parents are usually much older in life. So at that point, naturally speaking, now then, the kids or their parents will be elderly and headed towards the final lives time in lives and all that. And also with children moving out because your identity was all around your children, taking them to school, doing things with them, going to their games, and now nobody's there. You go through an empty nest period, and it's like, okay, what am I supposed to do with my life now? Okay, so stage typically involves some examination of doubts, relationship values, and sense. Okay, so some of the signs that point towards midlife crisis. All right. So, feeling of dissatisfaction, like I said, with your career, you may say, especially if you're at a job, and also that goes for people who are like immigrants too. Let's say if you come from back home and you had a really nice job back home and you come here and you have to start all over. Okay, even with the pandemic, that a lot of jobs were lost and all, and sometimes people were laid off. So it's like you're starting all over at a middle age. That can really affect how you see the world and how you see yourself. Marriage, you might be again you get into that point where you're saying, I've been with this woman for a while now. I need, it's, the excitement is gone in the relationship. I mean, we come home, we say hi to each other, we eat, and, she does her thing, I do my thing, or whatever it is. It's just, I need that excitement. I need that excitement of new love. I need excitement of finding somebody new and being all over, new all over again. That you start questioning things like that. Okay. And, let me go in here again. Like I said, health issues, and if you have any kind of illness, kind of slow you down, because during that time is when most of the disease process are kind of manifesting themselves now. So when you were 21, 22 years old, you didn't have like high blood pressure, you didn't have like prostate issues, you didn't have all those different things, a little bit of weight around the belly and kind of slowing down, and the stress that comes with a job around that time, you didn't have all of that. So all of that comes into play. Alrighty, and then you start thinking, oh my God, I'm at this age, I don't have that much time left. And you start feeling sad about that and that can really depress you, because you're saying, before you know it, I'm going to be 78, I'm going to be 80 years old, I'm going to be 90 years old. And then what? All right. I did talk about healthy aging. If you missed the show, I did that a couple of weeks ago. You can go back and watch that. Okay. And loss of stamina too, because again, you're not the 21-year-old person where you just jump right out of bed and go get going and doing things, just not thinking about it. And at the age where you're like 40, 35, 40, some people are still actively like in the best shape of their life. So that is outside the norm. I'm talking about within the norm now. Okay. So, you get up and you jump out of bed and you're like, whoa, well, let me sit down first. I think I just cracked my shoulder, or I think I just hurt my knee. And you get into that age, something, your shoulder will hurt today, your knee will hurt tomorrow, your back will hurt today. And especially if you had like injuries and all the kind of job that you worked when you were growing up and all. So all of that comes to play, okay? And you start, again, restlessness about changes in appearance. When you were younger, your jawline was like chiseled and you had all your hair. Some people still have all their hair, but it's like, you're gray now. You're not, the young girls used to look at you and be like, oh, but I mean, if again, like the younger people, they call older people, if you're a really good looking man, as you get older, when men, you guys can always, yeah. So it's like, oh, now he's zaddy. And I mean, older women, we don't get that much luck with us. And men can find, there's so many other ways that men can find that. Okay. So let me go in here. So we're talking about the symptoms now, right? Okay. So then you start restlessness about changes in appearance. You're making unusual choices, such as starting an affair, because of course, like, again, like I said, the woman you've been with for a while, it's getting a little stale. You've been, we've been in this thing. How's life? How's married life? We ill. It's like it is, again, it's not all everybody. Okay, so that's why it's always important to like revitalize everything every time, find ways like make your married life a little more exciting. Okay. and start doing other things. Like you were younger before, you didn't go bungee jumping, you didn't wear this outfit that was like looked like you were not supposed to be wearing that outfit, but all of a sudden you doing thing, you got your hair looking different. You were this person who were clean cut before, now all of a sudden you want to wear dreadlocks, or you want to wear your hair a certain way because you just want to get out of that funk of just being it's like a monotony every day. Everybody knows you as this person who is well versed person who sit there when you if this is this person walking in, if Moses is walking in, I bet you I know what Moses will be wearing right now. All of a sudden Moses walks in and he looks like his 17-year-old son, and you're like, oh, okay. All right, trying something new, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's always, maybe Moses wanted to change himself all along. He just wanted to get out of that. It doesn't necessarily mean midlife crisis. It just mean like sometimes you're changing your identity. So that's a good part of midlife crisis. So it's not may not be midlife crisis, may a transitional period in your life right now. Okay, and again, but the next thing you know, they're buying like an expensive new car, a sports car. All of a sudden, the family car that they had before is not as exciting, because when you're driving somewhere in a minivan or something that looks like you could be having children in the back, or yeah, it just makes you look a little more responsible. It just makes you feel even older. So you want to get like a sports car and be driving around so people can see you and be all excited that you're there. Okay, so most of and there's just nothing wrong with that, as long as you're not taking the bank account and going through your account and your money, your funding and all that for family, and that things that you're supposed to be keeping for your family, your retirement and all that. And some people still have young children at home, because some people in their 35, 40s and all that too just had children maybe a couple of years ago. So the kids are probably still in elementary. So that's very important. Or the kids are in junior high or high school. So some of them are still at home. So this is important that you don't sit there and just go through the family funding like that. Okay. So can the midlife crisis be, when you get to the point, where do you, can it become a depression? Okay. So usually, a midlife crisis can turn to a serious depression if it's not recognized. So, changes in your eating habits. If you're not eating the way you're supposed to be eating, or you overeating for some reason, already, changing sleep habits, loss of interest in activities. That's when, as the spouse, okay, and also friends, also making sure you kind of keep an eye on that. Anxiety, feeling of hopelessness, restlessness, and all that too. That's when it's like way past midlife crisis, because that person's like really deep into saying, I really don't like where I am right now. And I feel so stuck in there. There's no hope for me, because I'm not a young person anymore. And before you know it, I'm going to be this old person. And what have I accomplished in my life? So it's important to you to feel of loneliness, especially, let's say if you had to move away somewhere, you have to change your home and all, because the kids have grown up and you go into a smaller place, not necessarily to like a nursing home or to active senior citizen place and all that too. It's just mainly you just moving out of the home that you've been in for maybe 20 to 25 years and all. Or if you had to move away to find a different job, like I said, if you were laid off and all that before. Okay, so it's very important that as the spouse and also people who know you should be keeping an eye on things like that. Okay, so how do you cope with that? Okay, so some of the good thing is, if you want to learn some new things, like if let's say, oh, you know what, I always wanted to learn how to play basketball. I always wanted to learn how to go boating, or maybe playing golf and things like that. I never got the chance because I had the children in the house and all, and learn piano, just something safe and fun. That's good. Okay, but when you start going to that, he's not making rash decision. Hey, honey, guess what? I went somewhere today and I saw this, and I think it'll be nice in the house, and I did this, and it's like, whoa, slow down, slow down. Yes, no, because everything just looks so stale. I want something different. I want something different, and I just feel like we need to change it. We need to change that. We need to change this, and maybe I should, quit my job and go get another job. Especially if you have a really good job and the family's depending on you for the benefits and all, because for health insurance and other issues and all, you want to make sure life insurance that provides extra life insurance outside of your private life insurance. You don't want to start making rash decisions so like that. Or let's move across the country. Let's move overseas. Let's do these things. Let's do this thing. No, that's like slow down, slow down. Yes, the time, the time you had, usually when they say, okay, yeah, I have less time ahead of me than I had before me. So that's why people say that. So you're at the age in your life now where and know most of us go to that three scores and 10. It's like, oh, I'm living on borrowed time now. I'm living on borrowed time. So I need to do these things. I need to do these things. And my friends and his younger kids, they think the younger guys at work, and they think they know these, this young buck thing, they know it all. And they think I'm this old person. No, I need to show them that, I'm just as good. And also for women also, because you get to a point also as you start getting older, because I would sit there and I think eventually, I don't ever want to get to the point where I'm irrelevant. Not the Facebook relevance where all day you have to like make yourself feel better by putting your whole life on Facebook every day. They remind people how good you are and how perfect you are and whatever. Not talking about that. I'm just saying it's like because as you get older, you stop getting invited to parties. You stop being going to places when the weather's really bad and you can't go to other things because it's like maybe your eyesight start going or you have some of the health issues that you can't go to so many things and your world start getting a little smaller and smaller and smaller. So you start looking at that and saying, okay, I'm this age now. I really need to enjoy everything I can enjoy because I don't want to get to that point. Okay. And also for men, again, they look at themselves, their achievement in their appearance, in everything that, and you're saying, okay, you no longer need to be here or you're off the stage now. And some cultures is like they really respect the elderly people, but at the same time, they also disregard the elderly people. Anyways, okay, so that's important. So you get to that point and you say, and it's just like I said, sometimes it's a transitional period, but it could also be a crisis when you start thinking about that. It really starts bothering you and all. Okay, like I listed those symptoms before. Alrighty. So if you find yourself suddenly feeling, low in your middle age and you want to take some of these steps, so what are some of the steps you can take? Let me go in here. I said coping right now. So let me just look in. I'm just gonna answer some comments here. Jackie says, "What's the what a topic after Father's Day?" Yes, it's important. It's all tied into Men's Health Month. That's why I'm doing it. Okay, so still got your attention, right? And Dennis John said, "Why is this called crisis and not just part of the growth process or change?" Well, like I said before, let me put that back on there. Like I said before, I mean, sometimes it can be a misnomer. It doesn't have to be crisis, but if it gets to a point where you're doing things that become unsafe for your family and friends and all that too, then it's like, okay, we're going from just transitional phase now where, oh yes, I'm just getting old to, oh my goodness, can you believe my husband, took all the money from the account or been taking money from the account to go sit there and spend it on, his young girlfriends or just take the money out to go gamble it. And he's deciding he wants to go open some, Ponzi scheme because you remember a couple of years ago, we also had this, I think it was some susu thing where earth, water, and fire. That's how I kept calling it earth, wind, and fire. And then it turned out it was like this big Ponzi scheme where people were just taking your money. And you start listening to things where, oh, if I can just do this, if I can do that, then it does become a crisis because your actions are affecting your family and other people too. Because you could also be doing this at work, and that can cause a problem. So that's the reason why it's like crisis. But again, like I said, it could just be a transitional period. When it becomes unsafe, then it becomes a crisis. Maybe it can always be another name. It doesn't necessarily have to be a crisis. I hope that helped. Alrighty. So yeah, coping tips. Alrighty, so let me go here. So, by the way, take a little sip of water. If you're just joining us, my name's Abby Tyler. I'm your Healthy Living MP. This is Abby Tyler's Healthy Living. This is our weekly show that I do on Tuesday, and the topic today is how to cope with if you have a midlife crisis. Okay, this is June is Men's Health Month, so that's all we're doing. Then, already. Okay, so how do you some coping tips? Okay, this is also for again for the wife and the people in your life who love you. All right, so how you can do this yourself. So don't let your destructive thoughts, feelings take over. Okay, try to control your emotions. Don't give in to them. Maybe a little bit. Okay, maybe on Friday night, me and my friend or my spouse, maybe we'll choose one night in a month and we can go to the casino or maybe we can go to some game place and do that. Don't make it every day. And don't, if you never wore like really tight jeans before where it's like, the kids are, anyways, don't start changing stuff. Some people start walking around and this is friend who walking around and his chest hair showing up like, oh, seriously, really? Okay. Anyways, he's like, oh yeah, people like the girls love it. So yeah. Anyway, so before taking any actions based on your feelings, take a moment to think over and be mindful of the consequences. Again, that's why it's called, when you're talking about, let me go in here. When you're talking about crisis, be mindful of the consequences and all. If it's going to affect your family, your job, your livelihood, and all that, no, just stick back and just relax a little bit and think about it. Okay, maintain a grateful attitude. Think about the good things in your life and be thankful that you have them because you can sit there and say, Oh, I wish I had, sometimes when you're driving by in some neighborhood, you go into your house and all that, you drive by and you see these huge like mansions, or you see somebody with a fancy car and you say, I wish I was, I wish I was there. But at the same time, you come home and you have a nice place to stay. It's nice and warm. The people who are there, they love you. Your kids look up to you. You have good friends. You have a good job. It may not be the most perfect job that you have and all. And if you want to change your job, you're making sure that you have one lined up before you leave the other one, especially depending on the kind of job that you have, because not every career where you leave one job, you get pissed off, or you say, oh, I leave this one, I got to find something else. It would take you a while to find another one. So make sure. Somebody like me, I always like to have something lined up before I leave one job, because I've always to be like, from the time I was younger, it's like I always want to be employed. So, and it worries me when if I don't make sure I have another job lined up first. So I may stay at one job for a long time until I move. And plus I get a little used to something and I stay there for a little while. Okay, so just make sure. Don't just jump into be happy for what you have already. And now somebody can say, "Oh, that's okay. That's easy for you to say because so you can say that to another man because you have this, you have this, you have that, and all." No, just because you don't know what's going on in the person's house doesn't mean it's like their life's perfect and all that too. They may be looking at you that have maybe less and saying, "I wish I had that kind of simple life. I wish I had this. I wish I had that." So be thankful for what you have. Okay, be thankful. Look at the little things that you have. Be grateful for them, because again, it could be taken away just like that. Just like that. Okay, the little bit you have could be taken away just like that. You come home one day and something happened to your children, something happened to your wife, and all that could be taken away just like that. So be grateful for that. When you have, I would say, an attitude of gratitude, it makes you a little more content. All right. Open up to someone. If you're thinking about taking a major step in your life, talk it over with someone you trust. All right, whether it's a friend or a therapist, or get a second opinion. Okay, you may be dealing with mental health underlying issues and all masquerading as midlife crisis. So it's important because sometimes you're going through other things, and when it comes to mental health stuff or anything like that, I wanted to say this: if somebody trusts in you, if somebody tells you about their medical issues and all that too, alrighty, keep it confidential. Okay? Keep it confidential. This is the reason why most people suffer in silence and don't get the help that they need, because when they come to you and say, "Oh, I was going through this and they put me on this medication, or I'm going through this and I really want to go get help," and they trust in you regardless of how mad they make you. Okay? Keep it confidential, because especially when it comes to things like mental health, even without that, all right, that person stops taking their medication and all, and they can just go down and start spiraling into everything worse, up to and including suicide. That can also go for medical issues too, because if somebody said, I'm a little older now, my testosterone level, the hormone and everything that told you that for men that keeps you all like, wanting to be sexually active and all that, and now it start decreasing as you get a little older, and you say, I'm having some problems with, like, maybe you're having some problems, a little bit of problem with erectile dysfunction and things like that, and you go tell somebody, and next thing you know, your business all over Facebook, because when you were texting each other or you were inboxing each other, and next thing you know, you have a falling out, is on Facebook. Okay. So please, sometimes if you don't want to share, don't share that information with somebody in your own ethnic group or in your own cultural group, because you won't be able to trust that at least they're in a different community and they won't put your business all on the street. But please, 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 I cannot say this enough. Please, if somebody tells you about the medication you're taking, if somebody tells you about their medical history and all that, please keep it confidential. All right. There are times where people have done things to me and I knew things about them, not talking as a healthcare provider, because that would be totally violation of HIPAA. Okay. I kept my mouth shut. Cuss me out, say anything they want to say to me on Facebook. I just read and I'm like, okay. Karma will get them, karma may not get them, but that's the information I'm going to keep to myself. All right. So please do that. All right. It's very important. It's like deadly important. Okay. Okay. So making sure that if you have other problems, you may be having some depression issues and all, or something that you didn't, discuss before, or something that you have not addressed before. So it's important. It's important that talk to somebody who you trust, a therapist. If you go to a church, most of the churches have trained therapists and counselors and all that, as social workers you can talk to, that they have all the different resources that you can talk to. If you have a job, if you have insurance, you can just look in the back of your insurance card, access, and then they can give you the mental health providers in the area. Doesn't mean you're quote unquote crazy. It just means like you need help, you need somebody else to talk to. Just like how if your head was hurting you or your knee was hurting you, you needed to go get help. It's the same thing if you're having problems with your head, you need to go get help. Okay. Don't sit there and suffer in silence and keep your business to yourself. If you don't want to tell anybody, don't tell anybody. Matter of fact, don't tell anybody because nowadays, the things that I've seen on Facebook and social media, it sickens me into my core. It really does. Okay. So, all right. Again, like I said, so if you are, like I said, I'm not going to make this too long today. So, if you're a spouse or someone who know this person, what are some of the ways you can help? If you're a spouse and you see your wife, a significant other, going through this, and you might start getting fear that your relationship is in jeopardy because mainly you'll be like, okay, if he doesn't see me as this young, supple young girl that he met, and we all used to go out, and he comes to pick me up from my house, and he was so happy. Now I'm like older. Now my hair's a little more gray. I put a couple more pounds. I'm not energetic on the dance floor. I'm not energetic and don't want to be. It's important that you say, okay, let me see how I can help him. So what are some of the ways that you can help? Alrighty. You can go in here. So some of the things you can do. Ultimately, that's his decision. You can do all the help you want, but don't stress yourself out because whatever he's gonna do, he's gonna do it. All right. And so don't feel disappointed or that you failed him or you failed yourself. Okay. So listen without judging. Okay. He may want to air out his grievances about missed opportunities and other dissatisfaction, all that. Just listen and just don't start with which you should have could have you should have done this and why didn't you do this and should have done this. Maybe this is don't it's natural to want to do that because after a while, especially if he's bringing it up and you have your own thing to go to because you're going through your own changes too, and this man just saying 10,000 different things, you don't want to hear that. You get tired of it, and what's in theory may be different in real life. Okay, so just go ahead and just say, okay, let's sit there and talk about it, especially at this time in your life. Even without this, that's when communication is very, very, very important because you're too cute at this point. That's when most people start going for a divorce and all, because you both leading different lives, because your interests and all that may have swayed differently from each other. So that's why it's very important, always keep in line of open communication. It's very important at this point in your life. Okay, don't feel pressure to solve their problems. Don't say, okay, if I do this, if I do this, if I do this, if you want to do that, don't feel pressure to solve the problem. Just listen and give a little bit of advice. Okay, sometimes you can say, okay, let's go. You can, let's go for a walk, because sometimes when you're sitting in a house and you're sitting there, and it gets a little bit overwhelming when you're sitting in the house and have to listen to this all the time. And sometimes it's just walking in the park. Walking in the park where you got fresh air, people walking around, give you that feeling of wanting to be out there. Go for a walk and just talk about it. Sit at the park, sit in the car, because sometimes, like I said, the house can be a little bit overwhelming and you just feel like you want to just burst because symbolically the house represents something that's holding you down. Okay. And all the mundane things in the house, the routine things that holding you down. So sometimes it's good to just step out. Let's go to Atlantic City for one day for those of you who live in my area, wherever the fun is in your your part of the country. Doesn't even have to be Atlantic City. It's just gonna be somewhere else, just somewhere else where you're sitting for fun. Okay, go to different restaurants, sit there and talk, or just buy something and sit in the car and talk. Alrighty. Be receptive to potential changes in this life. Your partner may want to try something new in the bedroom to revitalize the interest in sex up to a certain point. Because I mean, if you somebody who like, okay, if he's like, okay, well, let's do threesomes. If that's something you don't want to do, don't do it. Swingers, no. If that's something that's totally you don't want to do, let me just put it this way. Somebody I know, they were doing doing swinger stuff and all that, is when you two partners, they trade each other and all, and then the other person fell in love and moved on to that other person. And that's heartbreaking. Okay, so unless if you're strong enough that your relationship is strong enough to withhold anything, don't agree to anything just to keep a man. Please don't do that, because in the end you're going to be the loser. Okay, and sometimes maybe it's you two, maybe the wife, maybe she may have been thinking about it, and if you both agree, I'm not here to pass any judgment. Your religious stuff and all, you religious people and all, I'm not here to do that. I'm just saying whatever it is that you're doing, as long as you're not hurting anybody. Okay, you're not hurting the family, you're not hurting the net. If you both agree, you're both adults, you both agree to do whatever, bring in other things in, do anything and make it fun. Because even without the midlife crisis, because again, like I said, you've been with this person for a while, it gets mundane, and then you just in a way to kind of break away from anything that's going to cause any kind of temptation out there. So go ahead and do that. If it means dressing up in a nice outfit, playing role playing and all that, you can do that. Okay. Don't do the whole, and I'm the nurse and you're the firefighter thing. That's played out. So, plus, nurses don't wear those outfits, anyways. So anyways, but whatever makes you happy, whatever makes you happy. Okay. So financial decisions, sometimes most of the time they want to start a business right now and you guys don't have the money. Do something different. It doesn't have to be something major, because I know a couple of people who started businesses and the businesses went by the wayside, and that really affected the relationship. So it's important that you can say, okay, honey, let's sit down and talk about it and see what else. Let's see what other alternatives. Let's see what the options out there that's going to be safe, that's not going to leave us bankrupt. Because when you're working for yourself in your 50s and 60s, when you're self-employed, you're working every day. You're working every day, because anything that goes wrong with that company, that's you. Okay. So if you don't have really good people, and even if it's a small businesses, you're going to be working every day. So it's important. Do you really want that kind of stress when you're 50 and 60 years old? Don't you want to be slowing down at that time? But as long as it's healthy and you have good financial advice and you have a financial advisor and you want to go ahead, sit down, talk it over. Okay. Keep an eye out for depression. If you're a spouse or a friend of this person, keep an eye out depression. Okay. Again, like difficulty sleeping, irritability, reckless behavior, and all those are things that you really want to be watchful for. That's when it can really go from not a medical diagnosis or a psychiatric diagnosis to a medical diagnosis and a psychiatric diagnosis. Okay. So, and also for those of us who are providers too, when the patients come to see us, we go through, answer all those questions, and we go through the depression screening, all of that. When you come back, we do depression screening. So we try to catch that long before time. All righty. So of course, if you have any thoughts of suicide, all right, call 911, call 988, and get help as soon as possible. Alrighty. So today's show is not too long. We just want to make it nice and sweet. So again, if you midlife crisis, it can be transitional changes from here to the next place. It's okay. You can change your hair. You can change your hair color. But if you're working somewhere where you're not supposed to be walking around with like really fancy hair color, uh, you know, don't lose your job because of that. You can wear different clothing. You can go out if you didn't want the kind of person. It's a good time to really kind of reinvent yourself too. Yeah, healthy reinvention of yourself. Do things that outside of that's for me. Like I said, my goal is to. The other day, I drove all the way from Rhode Island to my house in Pennsylvania, and I've never done. I didn't drive by myself. That's my goal, to drive by myself. But I drove by myself. It was like one long thing. Me and my cousin and my husband were in the car together. So that's start one right there. And one day I want to drive down to Florida, but I did talk about a Chesapeake Bay. So bridge. No, no, some fears you don't have to conquer. So, but do things that are healthy for you. Talk it over with your wife, your spouse, your significant other, and all that. Just say, honey, this is what I'm going through, and I just feel like my life is not where it was supposed to be at this time. And can you please help me? Let's sit down and talk about it, because I want to do things a little bit different. I want to do something different with myself. I want to go, exercising more often, and try to get back. Make sure that when you're losing the weight is for your health. It's not so much vanity. There's nothing wrong with vanity, but making sure that you're not doing that, and try as much as possible. There's temptation out there. My friend said this is more anthropological than, more than midlife crisis, because back in the hundreds of years ago, when men got to a certain age, they just trade and got another wife. They got a younger wife. So now all of a sudden, in this modern age, you just, yeah, okay. So, but do things and talk it over with your wife. Communication, again, communication, communication, communication. That is the most important thing. Okay. If you're the spouse and all that, you notice something, start talking over. Don't wait till it gets too bad. Don't just dismiss his feelings, or don't try to solve it and all that. And for men, of course, talk it over with your friends. Of course, talk it over with somebody who you trust, who you know that if you have a falling out, your business is not going to be out there for the whole world to see. All right. So that is the final thing. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's show. It wasn't too long. Alrighty. And if you missed the first two show, like I said, I did how to encourage a man to get the men in your life. That could be your father, brother, son, and all that, to go get their medical checkups. Last week was 7 topics, important health topics to be to be made aware of. And today is how to cope with healthy tips to cope with midlife crisis. So I hope you guys enjoy the show. For those of you joining me now, I say thank you. For those of you who will be watching later, I say thank you also if you have not liked and followed Abby Tyler's Healthy Living and you're watching from Focus on Liberia or YouTube, please hit the subscribe button, and also on Facebook, hit the like and follow button. Please share this show. It may help somebody that you know, that somebody's not my friend and they're not part of the Abby Tyler's Healthy Living page yet. Okay. So please share the show, and I will see you guys next week on Tuesday. And between then, I usually put out Abby's Daily, those little short videos here and there. So thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you guys next Tuesday. I hope you had a really beautiful Father's Day, and stay healthy, stay blessed. Bye-bye.